Good evening, folks, and welcome to the podcast. I'm Jade,
I'm Kara.
And I'm Erica.
and this is Perfectly Marvelous, a podcast dedicated to the hit Hulu show Only Murders in the Building.
On today's episode, we are reviewing season 3, episodes 1 and 2.
Woo!
Yay!
I'm so excited. And just a reminder, if you are listening to this episode on our Marvelous Mrs. Maisel feed, this is the last episode we will be uploading here. So don't forget to subscribe to our Perfectly Marvelous Only Murders in the Building podcast feed so you don't miss out on future episodes. The link to do that is in the episode description.
Yes, and if you are just listening to the podcast, please download it. We can't see the amount of listens that we get. Yeah, contrary to what Only Murders in the Building podcast logic will tell you, we can only see the amount of downloads. So if you want to let us know that you're there, you can download the podcast, and that helps us out a whole lot. We like to see how many of you there are listening to us. And one more thing, you can also watch the video of this podcast, but only episode 1 will be on YouTube. For episode 2, just head over to patreon.com/perfectlymarvelous and sign up to be one of our most marvelous members. And in addition to all of our Only Murders in the Building episodes, you can also listen to every one of our Marvelous Mrs. Maisel podcasts ad-free and see more videos. And shout out to the most perfectly marvelous ladies in all of the land, our incredible patrons, Lisa, Gail, Kimberly, Lori, Liz, Kathy, Melissa, and Jane. We love you all.
We love you.
Thank you so very much, ladies. And now, without further ado, let's get this killer reveal party started. Tits up.
Tits up.
Tits up.
Rah!
Yay.
Okay, spoiler warning. If you have not watched all of Only Murders in the Building seasons 1 and 2 and season 3 episodes 1 and 2, then don't watch this, unless you want to be spoiled. Also, we have done something cool. We have chosen who we all think the murderer is after watching these 2 episodes, and we've written our answer down and sealed it in an envelope. And we will share this at the end of the podcast. And we'll see if after podcasting, we still stand by our choice of murderer. Oh boy. So excited. Okay. Let's get into it. Episode 1, The Show Must... ... Directed by John Hoffman, written by John Hoffman, Saz Goldberg, and Joshua Allen Griffith. And okay, so at the top of this, we see a child watching this woman perform on stage. Turns out to be young Loretta, and we see a montage of her through her life as a struggling actor until she finally gets a part in Oliver's play, and then we get the opening credits. So what did we think about this little opener here? With Meryl.
I thought of you, Jade.
I
thought of you.
I thought of me too.
I thought it was really beautiful. And it was interesting to hear Charles being the voiceover. I was a little surprised by that, but it was really beautiful. I also thought, how lucky this little girl is to watch, this production of Cinderella, but also to come right up to the stage.
No, so it wasn't Cinderella. So I thought for a long time that this song was from Cinderella too. The song is The Sweetest Sounds.
Isn't that from, it's Rodgers and Hammerstein, right?
It's Hammerstein Rodgers, because Hammerstein had passed away in 1960. And so Richard Rodgers kept on composing, and he wrote all these lyrics. He wrote like the whole song. He not only composed it, he wrote his own lyrics. So this is from the Broadway musical No Strings, that was I believe it was written exclusively for Diane Carroll and Richard Kelly. And there's obviously no Gooseberry Theater, but this premiered in 1962 at the 54th Street Theater, and then it transferred to the Broadhurst. But we see this Gooseberry Theater, and obviously, well, for those of you who don't live in New York or know about the theater scene, there is no Gooseberry Theater. I believe the exterior and I think the interior is the Longacre Theater, which I've been to several times. Right now it's empty, so that's another reason that it's been empty for a while. I think the last show that was there was like Macbeth in 2022. Oh, wow. Yeah, so it's been dark for a minute. But yeah,
I love Macbeth.
So this was from this song, The Sweetest Sounds, was used in Cinderella, but it was written for No Strings, which I don't know anything about that musical, No Strings. But I will say the actor who's playing Diane Carroll looks exactly like Diane Carroll. I was very impressed.
It was beautiful. It was a very
Yeah,
beautiful song.
I don't know what it is with how they present things or the choices that they make, but I just immediately, without question, I was like, okay, so obviously that's Meryl Streep's character. And
You saw the braids and
Mhm.
yeah, I was like, okay, so remembering the trailer. And I don't know, like when Charles says one of his, he starts off with the, as you like it reference, all the world's a stage and
Mhm.
blah, blah, blah. And then goes into, but if, we all know how that one goes and says, but if you are the theatrical type, chances are you became smitten at a very young age. And I just immediately flash back to like the very first musical I can remember seeing. And the first musical I ever saw was Brigadoon. And
nice.
it was, I was in awe. And I remember I went with my mom and my grandma, and my mom was just like, you wouldn't shut up about it. Like I think I was 5. And then that summer, she took me to see Annie at the Wortham in downtown Houston. And it's true. Like I was hooked after that. And it gave me all the warm fuzzies thinking about how magical being in the theater can really feel. And I was just like, damn, I miss this show. Like, I miss the
Oh my
theater. Like,
gosh.
I need to go back. And that was just such a nice way to start off the new
I
season.
agree.
It really was.
I was all in already. I was like, okay, yep.
You gave me chills, but you're
Yeah.
right. It does take you back. My first show I saw was Miss Saigon.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but it was the touring cast, but I'm not complaining. Dee Dee from the Mickey Mouse Club, the original, not the original, but the Mickey Mouse Club of the 90s. My generation was played Kim, and I just was like, it can't get any better than that.
So cool.
But you're right, that beginning was beautiful. It was. What did you think about it, Jade? Because I thought so much of you.
I was it's like a mixed emotions because I was so happy that we got to see Meryl Streep right away and how she's going to play into the season. That made me really happy that we didn't have to wait for it. And yeah, I just got to say this opening montage of her auditioning and practicing and the voiceover, with Steve Martin saying he's saying you're trying so hard to be a part of something and it's just a lifetime of no. And it's really hitting home for me, especially right now, because, the industry it's in quite a state and jobs are scarce, and where there's already a lot of no, like there's even more now. So it's especially a difficult time to be an actor, and it's just a difficult time to keep the motivation up. And I found a lot of help in going back to like talking with my therapist, like, why did you start acting? Remember that, and like do more passion projects. And yeah, just seeing all of this reflected, like it gave me such sadness, but it also gave me like a lot of hope. And watching stuff like this just gives me more drive. It never shuts me down. Rejection always fuels me more to just keep going for the next audition, but
it was so intense too, like watching that one line that Steve Martin says at and it's year after year, rejection over and over again, near miss after near miss, until you realize that near miss has become your life. I was just like, oh, we are just starting heavy here.
And that's what it is. Even for a successful actor, you always feel like the near miss has become your life. You always focus more on the negative reviews than the positive. It's always that's the louder voice. So yeah.
I think that's human nature.
Totally.
Basically, we tend to focus on, you could have 10, positive reviews, 10 great things that happen to you, and then you'll focus on the one negative. But I will say, Meryl Streep, I would watch her read terms and conditions. Like, I did not expect to get chills watching her in this opening audition.
Within the first 5 minutes of the show.
Yeah.
But I stopped taking notes. I stopped doing, I had been typing furiously, but the more she kept talking, I was just like completely drawn in. And then watching, when we get to later, her bad acting, I was like, damn, she's good. It's like, this just, I had chills.
Yeah, I thought that it was going to be, my prediction when we did our trailer breakdown was that she was going to be the bad actor. And that's why Paul Rudd was saying she's a stinkeroonie, you got to fire her. But no, she's not the bad actor at all. She's a good actor. She's just a little,
she needs some maybe guidance. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like especially like older people in the theater, they're all like kind of characters. We'll get to it later, what I think of Meryl Streep's character. But what I have to say about Meryl Streep's acting in this first moment is there's something my acting teacher was talking about recently. Allow yourself to just surprise yourself. And that actually really helps you in auditions, because auditions suck. No one's good at them. I kind of enjoy them because they're impossible. So I kind of look at it in an absurd way of like, it's an impossible task to become everything in 5 seconds and in this unnatural situation. It's just ridiculous. So I just kind of like take that and have fun with it in auditions. And when Meryl Streep starts out and she drops everything, she drops her bag, her script, she like does this thing where she surprises herself and she like shocks herself into the moment. And I was like, God, that's so brilliant. That's I want to like steal that, because not only does it wake up the person who's auditioning you, but it wakes you up too. If you're all of a sudden, because starting an audition, just getting off on that first foot, like that first step as a runner, when they say on your mark, get set, go, that first sentence you say is always the hardest, because you just got to start off on the right foot. And so the fact that she just dropped everything and started, I really admired that and got such a kick out of it.
It was brilliant.
Jennifer Lawrence gave an interview about it, and they were joking around about how they called Meryl throughout filming the goat, and it would refer to her like to her face as the goat, like, oh, the goat, like, come over here. And they were taking a picture, and Jennifer and everyone were like, yeah, the goat, you need to be over here. And she's like, and Meryl was like, oh yeah, the old goat, like the old goat is coming.
Not taking it as greatest of all time.
I thought they were calling her an actual goat.
Just a goat. And Jennifer Lawrence was like, hold on.
You know what the goat means?
Know what that means? And she was like, so she was just like, that just tells you everything you need to know about Meryl. Like the entire time she's put up with us calling her the goat, thinking we were calling her like this old goat. And I was like, because she's just that. I mean, I have no problem believing that Meryl Streep is a wonderfully humble, amazing human being. But that story, I was like, that seems to sum it up pretty well. Like, she was so just, okay, like, I'll be the goat. Yeah, like, I'm the goat.
What a cutie. Oh my God, she's like, so precious.
Just adorable. And
I really loved how unrealistic people getting acting jobs is I just love it how you give a 2-second speech, like audition speech, and then they're like, you're hired. It's like never.
Where have you been?
Where have you been? It's so good. But then Meryl Streep's reaction when she got the job, it was so sweet. And she was like, thank you.
That was precious.
I loved it.
I did like, I feel like that's a good part to point out, the Easter egg. I've decided this season I want to try to find them in every opening credit, and in this one at the end, after they pan up during the day and we see the, what are they called, the footlights from a stage or on the roof. So that's one. And then as they're panning down in the dark in the building, there's at the very center, there's a silhouette of an older woman, and in the past credits it's always been dark, and this time it's lit.
How did I miss that? I watched so closely. Oh my God.
So I'm assuming that's for Meryl Streep's character, possibly. It kind of looked like her illustration.
So it's here?
Yeah.
Tell me where.
There.
No, I've seen her before.
Oh no, yeah, she's always there.
She's not lit up. It's the outline, and she's not lit up.
You might be right.
I looked back at, I watched the credits for 3 season 2 episodes after seeing this to see if she was lit up, and she wasn't lit up.
It was just kind of a silhouette.
Yes, you see her silhouette, but now we can look in and see the detail, and it looks like, a vanity mirror and all this.
You're right. I see that.
And the
Like,
only
this
other
is
difference
different.
was Howard walking Sevelin at the beginning.
And the footlights from the stage are on the roof. Those aren't always there. So like
Oh, okay.
to mimic the
Right.
stage.
I love it.
Before we move on to
They're
the next
sneaky.
section, I wanted to point out, did you guys notice the mirroring that I thought was so cool of Oliver when he comes down to this stage left and he looks up at Meryl and says, "Where have you been?" It was exactly the same place that little young Meryl was when she was looking up.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was
At
sweet.
yeah, I thought that was so sweet. I was like, oh,
They're so good
great
at that
storytelling.
in this
Mhm.
show.
They
Like,
love
yeah.
to go.
it's so subtle.
Yep, so
Oh.
subtle.
What did she say? She would kill without compulsion. Like some of the things like that.
Compunction.
Compunction.
Yes.
Thank you. I would mind that. But yeah, like just some of the things she was saying, like she would do anything to protect a child. So I'm wondering if those are anything that's going to come to light.
Yep, that's a big part of what
Yep.
I have to say when we talk about who I
The
think the
table
murderer is.
read. That's when I thought back on that line.
Okay,
I was
so
like, this is interesting.
right. Yeah. So let's get here. So after the opening credits, we were back in the present. Ben is pronounced dead at the theater, and Mabel suspects maybe poison. Then we flash back 4 months to the first table read. Charles Oliver and Mabel is going to tag along with them, and we get to the table read of Death Rattle, and we meet the producers. We meet everybody. Producers, Donna and her son Clifford. We meet Ben and his manager / brother Dickie. We meet the actors Kimber, Ty, Bobo is there, and Jonathan, but we don't really get too much from them. We have this documentarian Tobert and KT, the stage manager, and of course Howard. What did we think?
Oh, Howard.
Oh, Howard.
He's so silly.
I will say
he's ridiculous.
And getting to see and hear Paul Rudd's little death squeak. Well, what we thought was a death squeak.
I mean, he was pronounced dead. They pronounced him.
I was just like, what's happening? But I thought that was really funny considering that, the name of the play as Death Rattle. And instead of this, kind of be if you've, people who are familiar with what a death rattle is, it's unmistakable.
I'm not familiar.
When you hear it. But
wait, what is a death rattle? A death rattle is a thing?
Gosh.
What is it?
So
I'm so confused.
It's basically there's a type of sound that people who have witnessed someone die make. There's a death rattle. It's a distinctive sound of essentially, air leaving them breathing.
It's like the sound of someone's last breath,
basically. And it's called a death rattle, which is kind of why it's this interesting title where it's like this double meaning of the death rattle being like someone's dying breath, and then the rattle, as we see later, being like shut her mouth. Right. But yeah, so I just thought it was interesting that a death rattle is something that people in healthcare, people in law enforcement, first responders, and people that have been around death a fairly significant amount, they report. And it's kind of this grave moment. And then to hear Paul Rudd's little like death squeak in the middle of Death Rattle, I was like, this is kind of nice. This is nice.
You're like teaching me that I've never heard of this like as a phrase, a saying before. Death rattle. That's wild. Okay, before we get to the table read, let's talk about getting there, like they get in the elevator and everything. Did you guys think anything of the moment when Mabel, they were like, we haven't seen you in so long? It seemed, what did you think? I don't know. It seems suspicious or something.
Yes, it does.
It's like, why haven't they seen her? Like, we do see that her apartment has been renovated, so I'm sure she was somewhat busy.
Oh, that's probably what she's kind of hiding. She hasn't told them yet. That's probably what it is. I was wondering why she was being so cagey.
That's what I assumed was
that's probably why. Yeah,
but I don't know. I'm sure there's stuff
more to be revealed.
Mabel is always has some
mysterious.
Sort of,
we never know with Mabel. I did enjoy the spit take.
Me too.
When Marty was like,
just like,
hold on. I need to take a sip of water to do a spit take. Oh, yeah.
That was precious.
It was very.
Oh my gosh.
And then when he was like, no peacocking, Oliver Putnam in the house. That was classic.
I thought of you when he did that. I was like, Jade's gonna appreciate that moment. But it was just such a good Oliver moment.
It was such a good
He's like,
moment.
who wants to go to Broadway? I was like, okay, I missed him.
Yeah, it was great.
Ugh.
Oliver's so excited to be back on Broadway. And I wonder if
Yep.
he got the opportunity to direct this murder mystery show because of his recent, success with his murder mystery podcast. They never say like
Makes
who called him and
sense.
gave him this gig,
Yeah.
why all of a sudden he's getting asked to direct Broadway after so long not directing anything. But we're happy to see it. Okay, so let's
Yeah.
get to the table read. What'd you guys think?
Few notes I just had was about Howard and his whistle.
Yes, okay, talk about Howard for a second.
I'm like, oh my God. So he auditioned and he quickly stopped him and said, like, why don't you be my assistant? I'm like, really? Well, that's one way of getting him in that room. I loved
Right?
it.
Yeah.
I loved the way
Yeah.
that they had to give us that exposition. So
Mhm.
they just had Howard go, brief anecdote. Like, no one asked for this information, but you're going to tell us.
Yes.
And then
Yep.
another cute moment with Howard was when they revealed the poster for Death Rattle, and Howard was like ready to pull that cloth, and he like did it with like a flourish.
Mhm.
He was on. He knew his part to help
It was
out
so
Oliver.
funny.
The physical comedy with Howard is just always so spot on.
So
It
good.
makes me so happy. But
Michael Cyril
everything
Creighton.
in that scene, there was just so much to look at. And the jump scare moment where Cliff and Donna kissed on the lips.
Oh,
I was just like, I
God.
was not prepared for this. That's
No.
Wait,
Wait, jump scare? What do you mean jump scare?
Like,
I was not
ugh.
ready. Yeah, I just immediately was
No.
like, no.
Oh,
no,
for like the
no.
cringiness of that.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was
I
pretty
had
awful.
I had a moment. I was like, what the fuck is happening? I was like,
Yeah.
there was just so much to take in with that table read. And just the whole concept of Oliver's play also made me happy. Like these people
so it's
that are stuck
murder
in a lighthouse during a hurricane.
in Nova Scotia.
And
Nova Scotia.
and the only person in the room during the death is this infant. And I was like, I got, kind of Bad Seed vibes, but made less sense.
Yeah.
Chucky, maybe.
Bad Seed.
It's like child's
Yeah.
play.
I was like, this is interesting. And like, of course, it just sounds absolutely absurd. And I like how it's still relatively water adjacent, given that it's in the same theater as his whole splash disaster.
That is
was,
true.
or splat as
Yeah.
Beckham
Oh,
said.
yeah. That was
Like,
interesting.
it's just, ugh.
So did you guys think that this I feel that we're getting a lot of very over the top characters this season, starting off here
Oh, yeah.
with Wesley Taylor as Cliff and Linda Emond as Donna. He's gay, so I can kiss him like that.
Oh, so gross.
I just don't know what to make of this. Like, I just
Yeah.
don't. He does. Wesley Taylor does this flip, and I'm like, okay. It's his first, solo producing credit with his mother's help, of course. But I just don't know what to make of this. Yeah. Did you guys have
It's
any
a lot
other
of
thoughts
over
other
the top.
than
Yeah.
I mean, I just assumed
what,
it's
Erica?
Broadway.
No, that's what I was going to say. I was like, I
Mm.
don't know. I felt like we're going into like just that commentary of like, this well-to-do, wealthy mother trying to push her son into like some type of position of power. But it was just gross. It was really, really gross. But it was
It was
very
really gross.
laughable.
It's so bizarre.
I think it was very bizarre. But I think we have a lot of like we talked about this when we were talking about the season 2 recap, that they really developed the characters last season, made them more human, although a lot of the side characters are quite over the top.
Very.
Yeah, and
Like-
even go ahead.
No, I just say I was trying to pay attention to the characters who just kind of, slid under the radar, because we got so many just like loud character moments and
Mhm.
kind of in your face moments. And, I don't know. Are we talking about predictions yet?
Not yet. Save it.
Ish.
Well, I mean, unless it's super.
It's related to the scene. So Dickie, Ben's brother, immediately, they're late, and Ben blames it on his brother, says he had us next door. And I was just like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And then the cookies, which are just like this nice little moment of humor, but I was just like, obviously he can't control himself when he's around cookies. Mabel thinks he was poisoned. He could have been poisoned. And so
I agree with that.
That's it. I was just like, okay. But then I started, this is what I'm going to do the entire season. I was like, but is that too obvious? Like, do they want us to pick up on that?
They wanted us to pick up on it for sure.
That's true. But
this is okay. And then, so this is probably a clue, or it's a red herring. It's something, like, it's like, look here, there's something. Yes. So we just don't know yet. But yeah, something that I couldn't get over with this table read scene is that, I know that the characters in this show are over the top, like Amy Schumer, Sting, like these weirdo people for just the sake of being weird. I think that Amy Schumer is kind of the only one so far to really nail it. Also, of course, the queen of all time, Amy Ryan as Jan, just the perfect amount of weird, just the perfect, chef's kiss for that performance. But I couldn't understand what. Let's talk about Ben. Okay. I just have to, can we talk about it? I can't understand what so Paul Rudd is doing here.
But you know what?
And I think it's in the writing too, because when he
farted?
Eats a cookie, for him to just walk in, who farted? That was like, cool though, how every murder mystery needs a victim, and then farted.
Yeah.
I mean, but I didn't find it that funny, but I didn't find anything that Paul Rudd was doing was funny.
It was very cringe and like, but
yes,
I was just going to say, and I don't know if we want to talk about episode 2 at all, because it's just, if we're just going to talk, I felt like he gave reasons for a lot of that when he had his conversation with Charles.
True.
There were a lot of good callbacks. But then
there are moments like when he eats the cookie and he goes, oh God, that is one hot schmackery. I was like, why are you being this way though? Like,
beyond obnoxious. He's
honestly
awful.
I just saw it as, well, I love the fact that it's the opposite of what most people seem to say Paul Rudd's character in real life is. And he just was so, one, it's Broadway. I think this show has a lot of hyperbole and exaggeration. And so people assume, people in theater are definitely big personalities. And I think just a smidge. They absolutely played up on that. And Paul Rudd's character, like, I think part of it was to make him so obnoxious and douchey that literally unlikable. Everyone has a motive to kill him.
I think that's a good point.
They succeeded, all right. They fucking succeeded.
He was over the top. Like, he literally went through, and it kind of parallels what happens at the end and at the party. Like, he's introducing himself to everyone and does something just like slightly insulting to each of them. And the only one who still seems smitten by him is Mabel.
Yeah.
Like, the way
which very deeply confused me until episode 2.
Yeah.
Right. Me too.
But the finger gun things, when she got all like giggly and excited, I was like, Mabel, no. Like, no.
Ashley Park's character too was immediately smitten when he came in and just goes right, like, he comes in, who farted, and then just goes right into hitting on Kimber. Like,
I'm an
hard
intimacy coordinator too. I was like, oh, vomit. All
right. I was like,
well, and then the fact that there was just so much packed into that scene. And when he's talking to Meryl Streep's character, what is her, Loretta? And she's, excited and smitten. She's like, my friends can't believe that I'm getting to work with the Cobro. And I was like, did she say Cobro?
Yeah,
and then the realization that, he's like, I just play a friendly zoologist who morphs into a giant cobra and helps the cops save the day. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
That is gold. And obviously the parallel with his Marvel character of Ant-Man, the fact that he gets to be this like big bad cobra instead of this tiny little Ant-Man really made me happy.
Did you see he had a cobra tattoo on his forearm
yes,
too? That was great.
So douchey.
One person who kind of stuck out to me that we didn't get enough information was Tobert, other than we know that it rhymes with Robert.
Right.
But yeah, so I kind of eyed on him a little bit, even though I know that's
I was looking
Kara's
for
boyfriend.
Oh yeah, he's so pretty.
He is. He really is
absurd.
But he's probably the only one they really, even when he was going through everybody, he didn't really give too much, other than that he wanted everybody to sign the NDAs about it.
Right.
Oh yeah, that was a great line. Just immediately having everyone they got us NDAs. But I had that same thought. I agree, Erica, because they did, just touch on him really quickly.
They kind of like skated right by him, and he also wasn't at the party.
And he's the cameraman. Well, and I was looking for him at the party because I was just like, are they going to do this thing where they show us later that he's like off in a corner filming? But at the same time, if he was there to be documenting Ben's Broadway debut and they thought Ben was dead, then I could see why they maybe didn't follow up with him at the party. But as the cameraman, frequently, especially as, documentarians, as a cameraman in that situation, he's supposed to seamlessly blend into the background. People are supposed to forget he's there. So as soon as they introduced that as his profession, I was like, okay, so he's probably going to end up as a suspect at some point. It was just him and Dickie.
Or he's going to be a major part of helping them get evidence, because he'll have some kind of camera evidence, like something on film,
That's good. That's good.
And
as well.
I think I don't know. Mabel needs to turn her attention to him instead of being all smitten with Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's more age appropriate.
Yeah. It was pretty bothersome watching Paul Rudd and, the whole Paul Rudd and Kimber thing. I was like, no, please no. It's
Go away, gross.
It's so uncomfortable.
I
just go ahead.
No, I was going to say the only other thing I was going to mention when they kind of introduced the whole thing with Charles is really needs to learn how to read the room. He just has no clue. I don't know if it was even more so than the past 2 seasons, but I'm like, stop it, Charles, stop talking, stop. But the fact that they just kind of, again, allowed that expedition. The reason why he's able to do this play was because Brazos is on hiatus. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, because the producer is what was it up on
was sexual harassment charges?
Sexual harassment charges,
yeah.
But when he said he got the elephant out of the room and he was like, yes, I played Aristotle Brazos, and Mabel's like
Aristotle,
or Oliver's like Aristotle, and Mabel's like, I can't. Or no, I think it was Oliver who said, I can't even. Like, I don't even know.
They're like, they're dying.
Charles had a lot of good, all of them, but Charles really had some really great quiet moments, or what I thought were kind of passed over moments. But I thought when he's, sitting there hitting the glass and everybody kind of like stops and looks at him, because obviously that's like a universal signal that you want to give a speech. And he goes, what? He was like, oh no, I just like doing this. I was like, that just seems like a complete Steve Martin moment to me. I was like, that's not Charles, that's Steve Martin.
Yeah, probably improv. I could see that being improv. Yep.
He just gave us so much material at this table read. And then talking about Meryl Streep's character getting into when she first busted out that terrible Scottish accent.
Oh God.
Okay,
is happening?
Leading into Jade's most marvelous moment. One moment here.
Just another thing on Ben, the fact that he's moving into Amy Schumer's place. I laughed out loud.
/ Sting's apartment.
Yeah, I'm like, and also in
thanks
the credits,
to Oliver's tip.
Yeah, and about the Ben thing, I just gotta kind of say, like, I don't want to be a downer, and I didn't want to say anything before we started talking about season 3, but. Okay, I'm in the minority here, I know, but Paul Rudd has just never done anything for me. He's just not the kind of films he makes are not the kind of films I usually gravitate toward. His kind of humor doesn't do anything for me at all. Like, I never find him funny. I kind of dislike him in the way that I dislike Matthew Broderick, which is funny because he's also going to be on the show. Because they only
that is funny.
He's going to be on the show. I must have missed that.
Yeah, we forgot to talk about it in our trailer breakdown. I was so bummed I forgot to mention that. We only see him for a hot, tiny second. We have no clues how he's incorporated. But yeah, the thing that Matthew Broderick and Paul Rudd both do that bothers me is that they have this one shtick that they do, and it's a I'm being funny. I'm winking at myself and I'm laughing at myself as I'm being funny. And like they're commenting on their performance as they're giving their performance. I don't know. It's hard to kind of articulate, but this one thing that they do, and everyone has this feeling about Paul Rudd, it seems like he's always doing something different. I don't think so at all. I think there have been a couple performances like Clueless, which was probably my favorite performance because he's just being himself.
I think that's probably why I love him so much.
Yeah.
Because he's just, I also,
Josh was one of my
but you're right,
crushes.
I don't watch anything else that he's in. I think I just always think
it's just
about
not my kind
that.
of humor.
Yeah.
I think there's one performance I liked of his when he is doing his shticky thing, when he's doing his like weirdo out there, just bizarro character thing, was when he played Kunu in Forgetting Sarah Marshall. That was really funny to me. I think that he found
that
his
fit him.
Yeah, it was right in the pocket there with that one. But like, for example, in Anchorman, he was my least favorite character. I never found him funny. Steve Carell, Steve Carell can do that really over the top the thing that he does as like, Michael Scott on The Office, where he's he's very obviously being obnoxious. He's so lived in as a character. He's so believable and he's so invested in the character. It never bothers me. I'm watching a total douchebag and I'm loving this douchebag. I'm sorry. It's
endearing with
every
Steve Carell.
moment. It's endearing with Steve Carell. Yeah. You kind of like you and I don't know that they're necessarily trying to do the same thing with Ben Glenroy's character here, but all I know is that this shit got old for me real fucking quick. As soon as he started, every speech he had for me felt like 5 minutes too long. I was like, is he still talking? Why is it? I found myself kind of like tuning out a little bit just because I wasn't liking it, and I'm not trying to be a downer. It's not enough to make me dislike the show, but I just got to say, I hope that we got so much of Ben these first 2 episodes. I really hope that this doesn't continue because it's not,
I think that's my kind of at least somewhat intentional, because obviously they were trying to make him appear as this giant douchebag. And I don't feel super strongly about Paul Rudd, I guess, one way or another. I've enjoyed some of his stuff, like This Is 40. Well, that's also because I love Leslie Mann, but with him in that movie, the way he and Leslie Mann kind of play off each other, I think his obnoxiousness is toned down a little bit. In that one, it's more of a realistic take, which makes me think of, some people, my mother, for example, will not watch The Office because she hates Michael Scott and does not find Steve Carell as Michael Scott to be endearing at all. But when I had her watch Dan in Real Life, which is a much more toned down version of, what Steve Carell typically does, then she fell in love with him. Right. And so with this character with Paul Rudd, I immediately was like, holy shit, what have they done to him? Like, I have never been this annoyed.
That's what I'm saying. I just wonder if this hit for anybody, because this was a big old miss for me. Nothing about it was like the who farted. Like, it's just, that's your line. That's your, to walk into a room and say an obnoxiously funny line out of the gate. Good idea. Who farted? I mean, you couldn't have, I feel like it's a writing thing a lot more than just as much as his performance. I just don't think he's given very good material. These jokes aren't funny.
I think it landed, like, I wasn't laughing at his who farted joke. I was just like, when I laughed, I was like, oh my God, what a douchebag. Like, I thought they nailed it in terms of,
but you see what I'm saying, in the way that if Steve Carell had come into a room and said who farted as Michael Scott, I mean, just for me personally, it would have been funny in some way. It's like, I don't know how Steve Carell does it, and I'm really having a hard time articulating. But it is a good example of another asshole.
No, I can see
endlessly
that.
watchable.
Yeah.
Paul Rudd, I just wanted him to stop talking. Like, it was annoying me to the point of, like, I'm bummed that this show is going this direction. It was kind of, he's bummed.
So beyond their intent of making you dislike this guy.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. That's what it's trying to make me do. But it was exhausting.
It worked too well.
Yeah,
made
You're like,
you-
kill him
Yeah.
quick.
yeah, to the point
No,
where when he
yeah.
came back alive, I was just like, no. I was so really upset. And then finally, when he was dead again, I was like, yes.
I did like the parallel moment of him popping back in.
Yeah,
who
I was
farted
not
at-
I was not
I was just
expecting
like,
that.
what the hell, man? Like, what is
Yeah.
the matter with you? All
Like,
these
who
people
brought
think
him
you're
back?
dead. Like,
No,
but
but
I can
yeah.
see what you're saying, because if you don't find it at all, like, I don't know, not because I don't think we're supposed to find him charming or endearing, but if you see it as
But
an
it's a comedy.
overacting point for Paul Rudd, like what he is doing with his performance is not landing the way that it's supposed to,
Yeah,
then
I mean, I
that would
understand
take you out of it.
the point of the character is to get us to dislike him, but the point of the show is to be an enjoyable, good, funny show, and this is
Yeah.
not enjoyable, good, or funny to me. So yeah, it's like I said, it's not
don't
not
really
enough to
wanna
make me
know.
dislike the show, but it is enough to make me go, please no more, please no more. Let's be done with this Paul Rudd thing.
I want listeners, because I think that's so interesting, because I didn't
I would
think
really
much
love
of
to
it.
know how many people
Yeah.
enjoyed this performance, because I have a very specific kind of humor that I'm into. Like I said, Steve
I'm
Carell
sure
is
you're
not
not
for
the only
everybody.
person act that
No,
way.
and I mean, even
Paul
you
Rudd.
bringing this up, I really couldn't wait until he was off as well.
Yeah.
Like, I was
Yeah.
like, yeah. So, but I don't know
She's
if
like,
that was
"Okay,
just
shut
my
up now."
disdain for those type of people, or if it was maybe what you were saying. But I can agree with you on that,
That's true.
Jade. It
Yeah,
was
all I know is that it's not this character type, because I love
Yeah.
Michael Scott, but it's this performance that is not. And
Yeah.
I think it's the writing.
Depends on, because you can do obnoxious well, obviously. Like,
Right.
that's why, and it lands clearly with Steve Carell, because Steve Carell, well, he's also supposed to be this just wonderful human being, and I think that comes through.
Mhm.
But it lands really well with him and his characters for most people. And
Yeah,
now
listeners,
I
let
really
us
wanna
know what you think. If you enjoy this performance, please write in and tell us. Okay, so let's move on to Loretta. Let's talk about Loretta
Oh,
at this
gosh.
table read. Erica, what were you going to say about Loretta?
I just was like, oh my God, the accents that are coming out of Meryl Streep's mouth. I'm like, why is she
Oh,
doing
yes.
this? I
Okay.
I could not get over that. And then when she did the French Canadian accent,
Oh,
I'm like,
yes.
oh my
it's her
God.
process.
Yes. But I'm like, but that makes sense to her. But I also related because even though I don't, I'm not a professional actor, I have horrible audition-itis. And even though a table read is basically on audition again with your peers. And I'm like,
Pressure.
that brilliant performance she did for Oliver. And then what the hell is she doing now? Is it because she really is nervous and doesn't know what to do with herself? Or is it a front? I was like, what is going on here?
Okay, so let
true.
me play this moment. This is my most marvelous moment of the entire episode, was Meryl Streep at that table read. Oh my goodness.
House appears and a storm shelter door opens. A nanny emerges from the shelter.
Emerges.
Storm's coming. Don't take us that for opening in the rocks.
I'm sorry. I think I missed some of those words.
Oh, I was trying a Scottish dialect.
Because the nannies...
The nanny refers to a childhood in Aberdeen.
Right.
Or not.
No. It's okay to try things. Let's just go again.
A nanny emerges from the shelter.
Every time Howard reads that
Emerges.
line too.
Don't see it's a night for roaming on the rocks.
Oh my gosh.
That part too, when she goes roaming on the rocks,
rocks.
and she looks at them like, you know
Yeah,
what I
like,
mean?
like,
Like,
good.
she gets into this French Canadian thing.
Oh my
French
God.
Canadian.
Maple's
Because
face.
it's up in the Maritimes there. So
She's smart though.
French.
Yeah,
I'm
she's a good
sorry.
actor. She is.
Yes.
It's my
She
process.
made some
It's
choices.
just
Mhm.
how I find the nanny's voice.
She's
You
dead
know what? Maybe
serious.
try slightly
love
more
her.
how you talk.
This part just
Yeah.
killed me. She's like, oh
A nanny
God.
emerges from the shelter.
Oh,
Storm's coming. Don't think it's a night for roaming on the rocks.
Just how annoyed she is and asked to do it in her own voice. She's like, oh God.
Mhm.
So
You
good.
insist. Yeah,
Ugh.
that that killed me. When we saw it in the trailer, I knew it was going to be good, but then I could not have been prepared for when she, especially the French Canadian,
Oh, yeah.
storm's coming. Don't think it's a night for roaming on the rocks.
It's like there were so many good, like awkward kind of blank stare moments too with her character specifically, like when it's her line and she doesn't realize and she's just looking at everyone and they're all looking at her and she's just looking back, and finally
She's
was
like,
it Bobo or what? It's like, hey, it's your turn, and she's just like, oh, and gets back to it. Like it, oh, that was very enjoyable. They started with a bang, that's for sure.
Okay, what else did we think of Meryl Streep? Did you guys notice in front of her there were a bunch of little, like, she had all these little knickknacks on the table in front of her. There was like a bottles of essential oils and
Bye Bye Buffalo.
Yeah, Bye Bye Buffalo. Is that?
I think it was Bye Bye Buffalo or something, because I was like, oh, is it Bye Bye Birdie?
That's what it looked like.
Yeah,
I thought it said Bye Bye Buffalo.
I thought it said Bye Bye Ruffalo, and I was like,
maybe it does
Ruffalo?
say Mark Ruffalo.
If anyone can tell me what this mug means, I looked it up and I couldn't figure it out. There's also a paper crane in front of her. There's a ton of other little things that I couldn't.
And
a
little pink book. It looked like a planner or something.
Yeah.
There's a song called Bye Bye Buffalo.
Okay.
Oh, that's probably it.
Who is it by? Who is it by?
It is by Steve Gibbons Band. It's interesting.
I'll have to look into that.
Steve Gibbons Band.
Never heard of them.
Okay, you guys keep talking. I'm gonna find the song and then play it. About when she was feeling like Ben wants to fire her, and Oliver insisted.
I know, you go, I go. Oh,
that was so sweet.
I know.
I was just like, oh,
he saw the natural talent in her, and
yes,
can we?
He was moved.
Erica, because Kara, you weren't there when we did our trailer breakdown. Erica, who gets some credit over here?
Oh yeah, Jade does. She's the one.
I was very proud.
Yeah,
I thought it was one of the things that I thought of very last minute, right before we recorded our last trailer, breakdown, like seeing what we think is the Easter eggs and what does the trailer mean, and like what are the things that we can discern from it. The fact that we didn't see Oliver romantically connected to anybody, I'm like thinking to myself, if this is Oliver's season, he's going to have a love interest, and they're going out of their way to hide this in the trailer. And I'm like, bet my bottom dollar, Meryl Streep and Oliver. And then I thought to myself, yeah, she's clearly weird. We can take that from the trailer. Oliver's weird. They're both theater people. I'm like, totally, they're going to be in a relationship. And I was right. I'm very proud. I got so excited when I realized I was right. Yeah, that moment with Oliver was so sweet.
It really was.
It really was.
So here's the Bye Bye Buffalo song. Okay. That's a jam right there.
Yeah, like late
and
60s, early 70s.
Oh yeah, that was good.
Yeah,
but I googled.
I gotta get
Meryl
into some
Streep.
Steve Gibbons right now. Like really, I'm shocked that I've never heard of him, because this is exactly my kind of shit. Yeah. So this is the kind of shit that Loretta is into. I just love the
and it
the
definitely
of Loretta.
says. I think this is what it is, because I just googled Meryl Streep, Only Murders in the Building table read, and that's still from that scene. The mug definitely says Bye Bye Buffalo, and there are musical notes around
yeah
okay,
that's what I saw.
Damn, that was good.
Maybe we need to look at the lyrics more. We should maybe look at the lyrics. Maybe not right now.
Bye Buffalo.
Yeah,
I can multitask. Thanks.
Sleuthing along. Okay, so anything else we want to say about that table read, or we want to move on
I
to
don't
the
think we
after
got-
party?
I don't think we got enough for the different people there. Like we really didn't get much
Yeah.
from Kimber other than that little interaction between Ben
Yeah.
and Bobo just seems ridiculous.
Yeah. I think the after
And
party is
Katie,
what
yeah.
really is
Kinda
just
gives
like
us
they
more.
might as well be saying these are the possible motives for
Mhm.
most of the people. in
I
this room."
loved the after party part. I thought that was great.
Yes. Okay, so at
Oof.
the after party, okay, next
Hmm.
next we go back to the present. Oliver is throwing his after party after Ben has been pronounced dead, and we get back to the building. The elevator is broken, as it is wont to do, and so they all go to the party. Ben shows up. He's alive, and he is a changed man? Question mark. All right, so yeah, what do we think of this after party?
Oh, so much.
And Clifford was just mainly focused on the hashtags. So what is his mom's name? Donna?
Wait,
Donna.
Donna.
Clifford was mainly focused on the hashtag. What are you talking
Like,
about?
you know, he said like he's on the social media. He's
Yeah.
just worried about like
Oh,
all
right.
the yeah, like
Managing the Twitter storm and
yeah, just like focus on what the kind of publicity they're going to get. Like this is his
Yeah.
first solo producing job, and they're basically flopping because they lost their leading person on opening night.
Yeah.
So I think I was just like thinking about like how everyone was reacting to
Mhm.
his death versus like their silliness and ridiculousness, because it might be a reason for motive.
Yeah, it was hard to. I wanted to watch everyone, especially
Mhm.
in the backgrounds. But I will say, I can't go without mentioning wonderful Uma, her snark in the elevator. She's like, at least you
Yes.
had the consideration to keep the body
Mhm.
out of the building this time.
We
Uma's
love to see
great.
it.
Just like, God, I love her.
Yeah, Jackie Hoffman is a queen. We need her more in this show more. please.
Yes,
I
I'm
wonder
glad
if
her
they
moments
did.
are
to be bigger.
always fantastic. Like they just,
Use
And
more.
before they got to the party, one of my favorite lines with Oliver was, "Heap some more suffering onto my already full plate. There might be a little room next to the despair." It's like, yes.
It's so dramatic. Well, and I thought they did a good job setting up, calling our attention to the handkerchief gift.
Mhm.
Right.
The opening night gift to everyone, and this, what is her name? Katie, especially KT, pointing
think
out
that's what it
that
is.
everyone got them
Mhm.
that was involved with the play. I was like,
I
okay,
liked that
so
a lot,
that's
too.
important. When she said that, I was like, that, but it was a perfectly natural, good
Yeah.
way to
Yes.
like flip
It was
that
well
in.
done.
Do you
Yep.
think that we will see will become part of evidence looking at everybody's personal note because Charles said fuck you on it?
Fuck you.
Oh yeah, you're
I
right.
would wanna
everyone
see
got
it.
Yeah.
everyone got a
Like-
personalized note from Ben.
Yeah.
I enjoyed
Evidence.
Charles's note.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, especially
Uh,
since Ben was clutching the handkerchief, it's going to be,
Yeah.
that's going to come into play for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So
And go on.
yeah, I was just
Erica.
going to mention also that they said that the Gooseberry Theater, which is apparently our new Arconia, maybe not anymore, is the same theater where Loretta saw what was it
Oh
called?
yeah, that's right. Yep.
Yeah.
No
And
strings.
it's also it's a theater where Splash flopped, and now this is a theater where
Oliver's
Death Rattle.
cursed.
So
The
it
good
is.
old gooseberry.
Yeah, the Gooseberry. I'm getting goosebumps from the Gooseberry.
What did I like Oliver's line to Mabel? He was like,
I
you know,
know.
the lead of my play left the stage without a pulse, and all I can think about is my career. And he's just like, I don't know, Mabel, narcissism should really be more fun.
More
than
fun
this."
than this.
The way Martin Short delivered that, I was like, yep.
See, it's the
I'm-
reason
I
I
miss
love
these
Oliver,
people.
because it's kind of okay to be a narcissist as long as you know you are one and you're very
Mhm.
conscious of that. And Oliver always is, and
It's
he's
endearing.
it's endearing narcissism,
That's how
right?
that's
'Cause
how
he's
you
not
do it
a-
endearing. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not a real narcissist. He always, he keeps himself in check. He's always calling himself out on like, yes, I know I'm being incredibly selfish,
Yeah.
but I'm a theater person. It's what we do. And it's kind of true. It's like a business of
Ugh.
selfishness. Yeah. And Mabel is suggesting the podcast again. She clearly Mabel
Yeah.
really misses her guys. And it's so
Mhm.
sad to see Mabel left
know.
out of the group.
Yeah.
I don't like that they're, not as together as
No.
they
Yeah, I'm
usually are.
surprised he didn't hire her to help with like the set design
Do
or help with that.
something.
Like he hired Howard, for God's
Well,
sake, to be his
Mabel, the theater
assistant.
is not Mabel's scene, though. She
Yeah.
said
She's
she thinks it's kind of bullshit.
artistic.
Mhm.
Like she could have done some, like, you know, the set
Like,
design, like you said, or
yeah.
maybe doing something with the poster or
Mhm.
something like that.
Something
Yeah.
to bring her a part of it. But then again, we wouldn't have this little subplot going on of her missing
true.
her olds, her favorite
Yeah.
olds.
They're old. Oh my
So okay, then
gosh.
we get Charles and Joy, and Charles is relieved that the show is canceled.
Mhm.
Wow.
He's like,
that
I don't
was-
want to do this. I don't want to do 8 shows a week. I'm not into it.
He the reality hit him.
so they
how much
so
work
Joy,
that is.
yeah, and Joy took Lucy home. We didn't see Lucy at all in
Right.
these first two episodes, and I hope they're not writing her out because
I know. That's what
I
I
really liked
thought.
Lucy.
Yeah.
when
Most
they said
likely
that.
they might be. I don't know.
Well, what
Mhm.
did you make of Loretta asking Oliver to check that the back of her earring was still on? She
I wrote
mentioned
that
she had to
down.
get like out of her costume quickly.
She
Mhm.
And
said, I
if-
just had to get changed so fast. I'm like,
yeah.
that
like,
line
why?
really stood out to
Why?
me.
Why
Yeah.
did you have to get changed so
Yeah.
fast? Like, for all, like, we knew he's dead. There's no rush to get to the after party. And Howard made the comment at the theater still that Loretta was really upset. And I was just like, why was she upset? And this is another thing where we can all just kind of pat ourselves on the back for predicting that they were going to pretty much start off with Meryl Streep's character
Mhm.
being a suspect,
Mhm.
because, you know, they gave her very clear motivation.
Mhm.
And thinking about, I was just like, why in the world is she asking him about the back of her earring, other than to make that comment about how quickly she had to get dressed?
Right.
There's so many things. I feel
Another-
like
Another clue that I thought maybe will turn into something too is that Katie and Howard don't seem to like each other at all.
Mhm.
oh yeah,
And I'm like,
Yep.
what? I wonder what that's all about.
that's a fun
Yep.
little back and forth. I was like, the stage manager and the assistant, like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
this is interesting.
I thought it was funny when he said, I didn't think that stage managers wiped their nose with anything other than the bottom of their palm. And she was like,
Oh,
"You
yeah.
crumbs in your beard." And he just like swats his beard really fast.
Ugh, I do
Another
like
thing,
their
yeah,
rivalry.
I do too. Another thing I noticed about Loretta is she had her hair down in braids. It wasn't up
Mhm.
on her.
Which definitely, you know, called back to the beginning of the episode with
Mhm.
her. And I was like, that's kind of nice, but is it important? Like, I wonder if there was
She a little
another reason we were
disheveled
supposed
or-
to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, her braids seemed disheveled because she didn't have anything like tying them at the bottom. They were just like really
Yeah.
loose braids.
Well, and
yeah,
if
I
she
know.
had to get changed so quickly,
Right.
like,
Mhm.
I don't know. There
But
were
I-
so many little, they're breadcrumbing us like crazy.
Oh,
Like,
major. And I love
But
it.
how much
Yeah.
did we love though seeing Meryl and Marty
Sing
sing together?
It was
That was
beautiful.
I'm just so into this romance. Like, yes, please,
Yeah.
yay! I'm so yay. And then Ben walks in, and I
Well,
was like, no,
then
not
Ben's
yay.
back.
Opposite
I
of
know.
yay.
And not only does he walk in, he storms in saying who farted.
Yeah.
The worst
Yeah.
line of
Yeah.
in history.
Well,
Haha, so funny, I forgot
last
to laugh.
last season, Charles fell for a murderer, and maybe it's Oliver's turn
I know. I'm
this
thinking.
season.
Or Mabel.
Yep. Or Mabel.
Mhm.
Man,
I
hope-
don't know. I hope that they don't do another
Robert with a
romance for Mabel.
T.
Mhm.
Because that's true, because we had some suspicion, whether, you know, it was fairly brief, that her romantic interest-ish with tie-dye guy could have, you know.
Been a murderer, but also even what's
Yeah.
her name?
Oh,
Oh God.
Alice? Was that Kara?
Yeah.
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 To Alice.
Yeah. None of
That's
them
true.
neither one of them were murderers. They were
Nope.
suspects at one point, but not the murderer.
I love
We'll
it.
see. We'll see.
So okay, so what did we make of Ben? His very, very long speech that he gave.
was
I'm sorry,
I
hilarious.
was
Barbara,
I was like notes.
Ugh.
Notes.
Yeah.
Who is that?
I was typing down like everything he said
Yeah.
to everyone.
so
but
what-
his
so for- so-
brother,
yeah.
no, that I laughed out loud
Mhm.
when Paul Rudd came in and said, you know, I was dead, dude, for like an hour. They said it was like a record in their hospital, right, Dickie? And Dickie was like, no, they didn't say anything like that. And I was like, Dickie might be fed up with his brother.
Dickie is
Just,
done.
Yep.
Yeah, if I was Dickie, I'd be fucking murderous as well.
That was a lovely start to his just, outlining to each person, like, this is why you have a motive to kill me. This is why you have a
So
motive
yeah,
to kill me.
Kimber, I'm sorry I made everything messy between us. And then Ashley Park did this thing where she like flinched.
Yep.
She seemed very afraid of Ben. Did you see the flinch?
I thought she was just uncomfortable, is how I took it.
Yeah, there was one point though where Ben leaned in to do something and she literally went she jumped out of her skin. It was very abrupt. And I was like, why is she so afraid of him? And
maybe it's to show us that she was surprised that he's not
dead.
Actually dead.
The way that it read to me
shocked.
was that like she was afraid he was gonna hit her or something. She really jumped. Like
that would be really creepy and dark.
Yeah.
That'd
for
be
this
really
show.
Dark.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm maybe reading too much into it, but I really that moment stood out for me a lot.
It's hard not to read into everything with a murder mystery.
And it's the very beginning. Also, we see Jonathan is Ben's understudy.
Yeah. And yes.
And Howard so loves Jonathan. I was just like, okay, so obviously they're showing us that Jonathan has motive to kill Ben, but then Howard also has motive to kill Ben to get Jonathan to
be the lead
on stage. And I was like, gosh, they're building so many layers.
And then when he complains to Donna about his dressing room and he keeps calling Cliff boy.
Yeah.
So bad.
It's like, check.
Yeah.
And then he still, even after he apologizes for all of his complaints, he's like, but we could still do something about my dressing room.
With my unnecessarily shitty dressing room.
And then with Bobo, no more no-nos for Bobo.
Yeah.
That was funny. And what did he say to Ty? Like,
about his trainer,
personal trainer. Yeah. It's like, I got so mad at you for wanting to use my trainer. Like, Hutch is my secret weapon. And then he makes the dig like, no way you could afford him. But I guess I can give you his phone number.
And Ty was the one that he mentioned that he was like too handsome to be there. So there was some jealousy right there off the get-go. But the Loretta, the constant professional, the fellow snake, and then he hisses at her. I mean, that's what worries, like, not worries me. That's what's probably steering me away from Loretta, just because they're like so like
it's
in your
too
face,
obvious.
Like it's her. I mean, I know she hates him, but yeah.
Oh yeah. The KT, the stage manager, his comment to her was basically like, "I'm sorry, I accused you of stealing or eating
the mangoes.
My mangoes.
Yeah, because it's like, and then she said, "This cracked me up when she said, I know it was coming from a place of love," and he goes, "It wasn't, but thank you." Like, just every single person he talked to, it hit on why they might be motivated to kill him. Like with Donna and then Cliff, like just how swiftly they went through and established all of this dislike for him and palpable tension in the room. I thought it was shot and written brilliantly. They shoved so much in to both the table reading.
37 minutes.
Yeah,
this episode was one of the longest ones, but I was like, wow.
But
that's always how they do it with this show.
Excellent.
But then, so when Ben gets a phone call and he leaves the party, did we think that was a clue or something? I was thinking.
I took it as a clue, but also with Charles. So So he said,
"Don't worry about me."
Yeah, he wanted to be skipped because he's like, remember he threatened him right before he died.
Yeah,
that was But so he wants to start over, which was okay.
Yeah. And I was wondering if they were going to set up Charles as a suspect, but then is that the second episode? Am I jumping ahead? Where we see?
Yes, let's get to the end.
No. It was in this episode where we see him opening, and he still has his handkerchief at that point. Yeah. So I was just like, so I'm assuming they're really telling us
like we have to watch that episode one more time, just to look at the little. But one thing before we go to the next part was that Dickie tells him he has to take a call. Like, who is the call?
He says he'll go somewhere quieter. And the way he looked down, and Dickie seemed to also be aware that whoever this was on the phone was an important phone call. So I was just like, who is on the other end of that phone?
Yeah.
Yeah, or yeah, is Dickie trying to get him in a certain position? We don't know. All right, so then at the end of this episode, you know, Mabel and the guys get together for a late night pickle diner moment, and Mabel says she sold her aunt's place and she's moving out in 4 weeks. And then they take the broken elevator, and Ben's really dead. He falls from the ceiling. We're happy to see it. I was so happy to see it. Finally, yes, he's dead.
He
Very,
is
very dead.
indeed dead.
And I think that's my most marvelous moment,
Mhm.
at least very specifically after, you know, Ben falls and cracks through the elevator all dramatically. Of course, who is standing there watching Mabel and Oliver and Charles emerge with this dead body behind him, but Uma, and her delivery of "you've got to be fucking kidding me" to end it was chef's kiss. I loved it. I just
Did you put
we
the-
need
did you-
more Uma.
My marvelous moment was just right before that, is when he said, you know, let me see, what was it? Like he sees like at least he didn't die in the building. I can't remember what
Yeah.
exactly he said. And then all of a sudden the dripping, and I know we were talking about this, like it was really scary because it was pretty like very
It was.
grotesque and very like, okay. Reminded me of Suspiria with the coming, you know, breaking through the glass ceiling,
Yes.
and you
Silence of
mentioned
the
Silence of the
Lambs.
Lambs. It was really cool.
Okay,
Loved
But he
it.
says, Mabel, we couldn't have done the podcast anyway because Ben didn't die in
Yes.
the building. I was like,
And-
oh shit.
Oh shit. Bye, Ben.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Is that we're good at
Yeah.
living on the edge?
And all of our 3 characters have their signature colors.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Those who will go with you
Green,
to
red,
help
and
make
blue.
that moment when you finally arrive
You're
in
so
your
right.
own big spotlight.
That's a good sound.
They're the only ones who matter.
You know, Mabel, we couldn't have done the podcast anyway because Ben didn't die in the building.
Oops.
Blood.
They must
So
have just
gross.
got in there after he fell onto it.
Yeah.
Wait, what's
Or
that?
that screech sound was him falling.
Oh,
Oh
that
God.
was so gross.
Uh-oh.
Poor Charles' hat.
I
Your
know.
poor Charles hat.
Oh my God, it's so scary.
You gotta be fucking kidding me.
You're right, Uma.
Yes.
Oh my
Such
God.
a good way to end the first
Mhm.
episode.
That was a killer premiere. It really, really
It
was.
was.
Like, wow.
Excellent.
Yeah. Okay, so that is all we have, I think, for episode 1. And if you guys are watching on YouTube, we would appreciate it if you can like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you want to watch episode 2, then head over to patreon.com/perfectlymarvelous, or you can listen to the podcast. And remember to subscribe to the podcast feed once you get there. All the links are in the description. And yeah, in episode 2, we're going to talk about who we think the murderer is. So join us over there. See you later.
Phew.
Bye.